Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravachakacharya Sutta ISKCON BBD founder Sharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravachakacharya Sutta Shri Srimad Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Gauri Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaurada Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Jamunamai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Tulasi Devi Maharani Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Brihat Badanga Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 9, Text 26. Maitre Uvacha Swasambhavam Nisamyaivam Swasambhavam Nisamyaivam Tapo Vidya Samadhibi Tapo Vidya Samadhibi Yavan Mano Vachaha Stutva Yavan Mano Vachaha Stutva Vira Rama Sakinavat Vira Rama Sakinavat Maitreya Vacha Swasambhavam Nisamyaivam Tapo Vidya Samadhibihi Yavan Mano Vachaha Stutva Vira Rama Sakinavat Vaishnavis. Maitreya Vacha. The great sage Maitreya said, Swasambhavam, the source of his appearance, Nisamya, by seeing, Evam, thus, Tapaha, penance, Vidya, knowledge, Samadhibihi, as also by concentration of the mind, Yavat, as far as possible, Manaha, mind, Vachaha, words, Stutva, having prayed, Virarama, became silent, Sa, he, Brahma, Kinavat, as if tired. Mm-hmm. Translation. The sage Maitreya said, O Vidura, after observing the source of his appearance, namely the personality of Godhead, Brahma prayed for his mercy as far as his mind and words would permit him. Thus, having prayed, he became silent, as if tired from his activities of penance, knowledge, and mental concentration. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Brahma's enlightenment in knowledge was due to the Lord sitting within his heart. After being created, Brahma could not ascertain the source of his appearance, but after penance and mental concentration, he could see that the source of his birth, and thus, but after penance and mental concentration, he could see the source of his birth, and thus he became enlightened through his heart. The spiritual master outside and the spiritual master within are both representations of the Lord. Unless one has contact with such bona fide representations, one cannot claim to be a spiritual master. Lord Brahma had no opportunity to take help of a spiritual master from outside, because at that time Brahma himself was the only creature in the universe. Therefore, on becoming satisfied by the prayers of Brahma, the Lord enlightened him about everything from within. Om Ganatimiram Dasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dadati Swaparantikam. So Lord Brahma has concluded his prayers, and so this is like a transition here. And now the next thing that's going to happen is we're going to hear a response to those prayers from Garbhodakshai Vishnu himself. And this is all being described to us by Parashara Muni, who heard it from Pulasya Muni, and working back, through the earlier parts of this Bhagavatam. But I think that one point that really got me here is that Lord Brahma, we've heard the whole description of, how he was born from the navel and et cetera, et cetera. So he's a very, very special living entity, and his special qualifications, he has a really strong desire to serve Krishna. Lord Brahma and subsequently the demigods that create, we always hear of them as being sakama devotees. Sakama means with some desire. But, yeah, they have some desire, but they also have a big desire to serve Krishna. They're big devotees. Lord Brahma is a very big devotee. Agni, Surya, Vayu, Chandra, they're all great devotees. They have some desire, but they're all great devotees. So, and the basic mentality of they have some material. Yeah, thank you. They have some material desire, in addition to having a very big spiritual desire to serve Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But they also have some material desire. And that's why they're referred to as sakama devotees as opposed to akama devotees. Thank you. So there's many things that contribute to the mentality of a devotee, but one certainly is, very foundational mental attribute or quality is appreciation. So there are two, in the English language, there's two words, they're very similar. One is benefactor, and the other is beneficiary. So I'll read the dictionary definition for those two words because it's kind of relevant to that point I'm trying to make. A benefactor a person who gives help to a person or a cause. Okay, simple definition of a benefactor. And a beneficiary, a person who derives advantage from something. So Lord Brahma, all the demigods and devotees in general, they can understand that we are beneficiaries. We're beneficiaries. We're deriving advantage from something, the benefactor. And the benefactor is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's like a basic core understanding of devotees, that I'm a beneficiary. I mean, the mind I have to think with, my memory, my ability to discriminate, my powers of judgment, that's a gift from Krishna. The air I'm breathing, that's a gift from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The water I'm drinking, it's a gift. The food I'm eating, like that. So, and a devotee has appreciation for that. See, he's appreciating. He knows I am a beneficiary. So if somebody's a beneficiary and they're not ungrateful, then two things. Well, one thing definitely is they should want to pay it back. There's that expression, pay it back. Pay it back means like, okay, the person who I'm deriving these benefits from, I should do something to reciprocate with that person. That's there. And then more recent years, I have a new expression has been invented, pay it forward. And that's an interesting expression. It means not only that you appreciate what you're receiving from your benefactor and you try to reciprocate by paying it back, but in addition to that, you appreciate the whole, like, the phenomena that this person, with no obligation, did something kind for me. So not only will I pay that person back, not only do I want to reciprocate with that kindness, but understanding that what a wonderful thing that was, that this person, for no obligation, was kind. I'm going to do the same thing to somebody else. So that's that's a further development of a devotional mentality, and that's kind of a basic way of thinking that's required for preaching. It's like a devotee is thinking. I mean, he's preaching on the instruction of the order of the spiritual master. That's there too, but another aspect of it is he's appreciating. Yeah, I've received so much, from my spiritual master, from Krishna. Now let me do something to share this with other people. Let me try to give them the same benefit, the same good fortune that I've received, just out of the kindness of, the heart of the spiritual master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's there as well. So once again, though, it all starts with core value is appreciation. So I want to read an excerpt from a morning walk conversation that Prabhupada had here in Los Angeles in 1973. It's just a paragraph. He was with Swarup Damodar, who was Goswami. Not at the time, he was just Swarup Damodar. He was the devotee who headed up the Bhaktivedanta Institute, the science preaching wing. So anyway, so Prabhupada's walking with him on Venice Beach, and he says, Krishna is asking you that you realize me. And Prabhupada's playing both sides of the conversation here. So then Prabhupada goes, no, I cannot see you. And so Prabhupada, the other side now goes, no, why you cannot see? Here is water. You are drinking water. Yes, I am the taste of water. Why don't you see me? Prabhasmi sasi surayo. I am the sunshine. So who is not seeing the sunshine? Why the rascals say, I do not see God? God says, I am here, but he says, I do not see. Liars. If you are in my front, if I say, here I am, and if you say, no, sir, I do not see you, what is this? Similarly, God is before you in the form of sunshine, also in the form of the taste of water. So don't you see the sunshine? Why do you say that I do not see God? Who has not seen the sunshine? In the morning, very early in the morning, you see God. That is Gayatri Mantra. Om Bor Bhavasva Tat Savator Varenyam Bhargo Devasya. That is the obeisances to the sun. In the very beginning, you see God by the sunshine. Now, so Prabhupada's, making this point that Krishna's saying, you realize me, and he's, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's presenting different ways in which a person can appreciate him. The light of the sun, the taste of the water, the sound and ether, the original fragrance of the earth, right? These are all ways, if you kind of are aware of those, you appreciate those things, you're appreciating Krishna. It's the beginning of that development of appreciation, which gradually will develop into love of God way further down the line. But this is the very beginning. So then Prabhupada goes on to make this point. So, and how to develop this into love of God. He says, okay, in the very beginning, you see God by the sunshine. Then he says, then think of the sunshine, how much potency it has, how everything is being produced by the sunshine. So that's what we're supposed to do. You see, in other words, Krishna puts out these examples, they're in the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, there's some in the 9th, there's some in the 10th, and then we're supposed to meditate. We're supposed to meditate on these things that, this is, like Prabhupada says, how much potency the sunshine has, how everything is being produced by the sunshine. He goes on to say, when there's no sunshine, we become disturbed. So why don't you understand that without God's presence, we cannot do anything? So that's kind of like the conclusion, that a person appreciating these different gifts, appreciating all the different ways in which we're a beneficiary, which we're receiving, benefits from Krishna, will come to the conclusion that, actually, like Prabhupada says here, without God's presence, we can't do anything. We couldn't live. We couldn't exist. And then as I'm doing this, I had another realization that, Prabhupada said, that's about Bhagavad Gita, said minimum words, maximum solution. And I find that's true of Prabhupada's speech as well. Minimum words, but maximum realization. Like when you actually meditate on what Prabhupada's saying, don't just read it and but actually think about what he's saying, you get these volumes of meaning in just a few little things that Prabhupada says. So anyway, the next thought that Prabhupada presents, he says, it does not require any big philosophical speculation. That's another major point. He's pointing out that this appreciation of, God, the gifts of God, the form of the water, the sun, the this, the that, and that we can't exist without, we're beneficiaries, we can't exist without those gifts. That doesn't take any big philosopher. You don't have to be some big philosophical Gyani or something like that to understand those things. And that's the point he's making here. He says, does not require any big philosophical speculation. He says, but the rascal will not admit, as directed in the Vedic literature, that is their fault. And that's the Vedic process, that it doesn't require, to become a God-conscious person doesn't require an abundance of original thought. Not at all. You just have to take the cues from the Bhagavad Gita, from the Vedic literature, meditate on those things, appreciate what's being said, what we're experiencing directly in our own lives, and what's being confirmed. The same points are being made by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, and that way we become a God-conscious person. It doesn't require being a big philosopher. We just have to take the cue, from the, as it says here, directed by the Vedic literature. So, up till this point, though, everything I've just said here, this is very basic. This is like very entry-level God consciousness, Krishna consciousness. But actually, what we're doing here is actually very high level. The Krishna conscious movement is actually, we're presenting what I just said to everybody, but simultaneously we're presenting like the PhD program of God consciousness. Somebody comes to a Hare Krishna temple, they hear things like this, but they're also introduced to deity worship. They're also introduced to the chanting of the holy name. These are actually very high-level spiritual practices. And so one may ask the question, well, how is it that, people coming just off the street with maybe no God consciousness, how are they going to be able to appreciate these very high-level spiritual activities, such as the chanting of the holy name, studying of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the worshiping of the deity, like that? Well, Prabhupada did say on one occasion, he said that in Krishna consciousness, first you sit on the judge's bench, and then you develop the qualifications. You've heard that one? First you sit on the judge's bench, and then you develop the qualifications. So in other words, so initially we're not really qualified to be doing these activities. We're not on traditionally the level of consciousness that's was required for people who worship the deity or were chanting the holy names of the Lord. Or this is like very people in a high level of consciousness, but we're just Kali Yugarites, But Prabhupada said, first you sit on the judge's bench, you take up the process, and we develop the qualifications. And he gave another example of, so just like during a war, sometimes they have what's called field command. The general needs to put an army together, and you need a hierarchy, you need officers, you need enlisted men, So he just, field command, okay, you're a lieutenant, you're this, you're that, he just appoints him. And so that, so it's true that just on that person, just on the general say-so, just like that person is in that position. But at the same time, he has to work on becoming qualified. So by the mercy of, Lord Chaitanya, by the mercy of the Parampara disciplic succession, we've been introduced to devotional service, which is very exalted. And we're sitting on the judge's bench. So simultaneously, we have to remember that we have to develop the qualifications. That's there as well. And which takes us back to today's purport. It's talking about how Lord Brahma, he was enlightened by the Lord who was sitting within his heart. And ultimately, it goes back to sincerity. Lord Brahma was very, very sincere, so therefore he was enlightened by Krishna from within the heart. And so the same principle is still there now. In other words, if we're really sincere about our devotional service, that's how we'll develop those qualifications. We're sitting on the judge's bench, but the way we'll develop the actual qualities of a devotee is if we're very sincere about executing the instructions we receive from our spiritual master, then Krishna reciprocates, and he'll turn us into devotees. In the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, it says, Krishna says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayanti te tesham eva anukampartam aham jnanajam tamaha nasyami atmabhavashto jnana dipena bhashvata. That to those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give them the intelligence by which they can come to me. Out of compassion for them, I, who am dwelling within their heart, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So that was Lord Brahma's qualification. He did like that. And the result was that Krishna enlightened him from within his heart. And in the same way, if we're following in the footsteps of Lord Brahma, sincere about executing the instructions of our spiritual master, then we'll develop those qualifications. We'll be enlightened from within. We'll be sitting on the judge's bench, but all the qualities we require to be proper devotees will be awarded to us by Krishna, by his anukampantam, his causeless mercy. So I'll stop there. Does anybody have any question or something, a comment? Okay.
Thank you for elucidating on these particular points of our relationship with Krishna, where we get our source, our power, our ability, and that this doesn't come out of a vacuum, out of nothing. It comes from initially the Lord. This whole class can be summed up in, I believe, Krishna's statement, "I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts." That's it. I'm the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Therefore, everything comes from Krishna. Nothing comes by itself, and nothing merely comes. It's all coming from him. And we give all credit to him. And when anything we do, which if we happen to do it well and do it right, we give that credit also to Krishna. And when we make mistakes, we also take the demerit of the mistakes to ourselves, because we didn't depend upon Krishna. Krishna is perfect. He can do anything and everything perfectly, and also, if he wants to, can do it imperfectly too. So, but the main point is that when we depend upon Krishna, we're depending upon the finest, the best, the greatest, the highest. And if we depend like that on everything that we do, we try to think in our minds, please, for example, I'll give an example in my own life. Whenever I would give class, okay, I never simply stepped up to the Vyasa-san and just started speaking. Generally what I would do is for 1/2 hour I would pray to the Lord in the understanding that I know nothing and that I can't really say anything of any value. If I have anything of value, it comes from you, Lord. So therefore what I'm saying is that please help me, guide me, direct me, enable me, so that I can say something that would be what you would say. So therefore, everyone will get your thoughts, your feelings, your ideas, rather than mine, which are full of impurities and also full of ignorance, full of difficulties, misunderstandings, and the like. But Krishna is perfect. So if we get him speaking through us, and he can do that, and then what happens is that what goes out to everyone here is coming from Krishna through that devotee. And that's what we got from Srila Prabhupada. And that's why we loved his talks so much. Because, I don't know if he did what I did. I don't think he has to do that anymore. But when you're growing up spiritually, as I feel I am, yes, I need help. I'm like a cripple. I don't know everything perfectly. But Krishna does. And since I want the very best, I want the highest, I want the greatest, the most wonderful for everybody sitting in this room, how can I do that? I don't have that ability, but Krishna does. So therefore we beg him, we cry out for him, we entreat him, please speak through me so that everyone here can get your message and not my possibly distorted message. And if you do that, everyone will be highly benefited and will take it to the next, hopefully, level. That's it.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah, Mother.
Did somebody? I'm a little rough on my knee.
Thank you for the class, Prabhu. Actually, for me, it was very refreshing to go back to the simplicity of understanding Krishna. Like in the beginning of my Krishna consciousness practice, I was thinking of Krishna as the taste of water every time I drank it, but now I got caught up in the higher practices of Krishna consciousness. I forgot that. So I feel gratitude for you to reminding this. I think it will be a great addition to meditate on that every day.
Yeah,
again.
Thank you. That's so I don't do that, but there's the one with the sun that just smacks me in the face. I just can't help it. You know, it's the original phrase. Well, taste of water. I have to remind myself. You know, okay, Krishna's the taste of water, but you know, something like the sunshine or the original fragrance of the earth when you get out of Los Angeles and you get into something 50 miles away, and there's certain of these things that Krishna says, they just boom, they just knock you in the head, and you can't help but appreciate them. And it definitely helps us in our God. At least it does me. I find it's practical. It helps in God consciousness. I mean, when I see the sun and I'm appreciating that, I'm not thinking of it just immediately invokes or awakens thoughts of God consciousness and appreciation of Krishna. So it's a very practical program. You know, Krishna hasn't given something in the Bhagavad Gita that's impractical. It works. Yeah, anyway, thank you. Go ahead.
I appreciate that it's practical. I get a fortune to speak to different people recently. One who is a sailor, and it's a woman, and she said, like, I hate sailing. But what I like being in the middle of the ocean with this unlimited sky and unlimited ocean, and she feels like she's a part of creation. So this is her way to connect with God.
Right.
And then they talk to a skier who turns out also like, yeah, he likes skiing, but he more likes to be there, reciprocated with the elements, with the snow, with the earth, with the mountains, with the air, so which also makes him feel the part of the creation. So I was amazed that like it's a simple way really practically understand how we are related to Krishna. And with this goes my question, as you mentioned that like we're judges sitting on the bench until we develop qualifications. So with the new people, for the preaching purposes, how would you advise, like we meet them where they at and give that as a process as simple as where they at, so they can relate to Krishna, and then slowly introduce them to the higher practices. What would be your advice?
New meaning, just visiting the temple?
Yeah, like for as a preaching, yeah.
Yeah. Well, just encourage them to, come, participate in the activities, take prasadam, but also to read the books, because everything's in Prabhupada's books. And see, ultimately, we want to be able to experience God's presence in His holy name, by chanting purely and worshiping the deity like that. But initially, that's kind of difficult for people, so they can appreciate God's presence, as you said, like that lady, appreciating the unlimited sky and the unlimited sea. So you have to try to bring them along. If we're more advanced than them, if we've already traversed that path, so to speak, that ground, we should be able to know how to bring them from where they are to at least where we are, kind of thing. So, but that's it, just, give them association and just point them in the right direction. Anybody else, anything? Okay, thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.